Om Asatoma Sadgamaya Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya Mrityurma Amritam Gamaya Om Shanti 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 Om Dhanurgrihitva Panishadam Mahastram Sharam Upasa Nishitam Samdayita Ayam Yatad Bhavagatena Chitasa Lakshyam Tadevaksharam Somya Vidhi Om Shanti 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 Om. Salutations to Brahman, the Absolute. May Brahman protect us always. May Brahman illumine us. May we realize the self. Om, we pray unto Brahman, lead us from the unreal to the real. Lead us from darkness unto light. Lead us from death to immortality. Om, may we pick up the mighty bow that is the Upanishads. May we place upon it the arrow of the mind purified through much austerity and practice. May we draw back the bowstring of renunciation, or rather inwardness, and strike upon our target, Brahman, consciousness, bliss, absolute, the self. Om, peace, peace, peace unto us all. Good evening, friends. It is a very important prayer that we open with, not just the Shanti mantra from the Birhad Aranyak Upanishad, Asatoma, it's very beautiful Shanti mantra. It encapsulates the whole of spirituality, this movement from the unreal to the real, from ignorance, the darkness of ignorance, to the light of knowledge, and most importantly for us maybe, from death, from decay, from the perishability of body and mind, to the eternity and the eternal life of spirit, pristine consciousness. So the first mantra from the Birhad Aranyak Upanishad expresses to us, in sum, what we're trying to do here together. And I'd like to just maybe, in the beginning of this lecture, remind everyone, like we have to always keep this goal in sight. And the goal is nothing short of renouncing that which is unreal, that which is unfulfilling, that which ultimately does not serve us, eschewing all of that in total absorption, plunging headfirst into that which does, that which is eternal, that which is real, that which is life-giving and strength-giving, that which is ultimately the purpose and goal of a human life. So the expression in this Asatoma Sadgamaya is a prayer for Viveka. It's a prayer for discernment. May we discern correctly that which is sacred and that which is profane. And more importantly, may we have the strength to renounce that which is profane and pursue that which is sacred. I heard a Christian prayer that goes like that, may we have the strength to endure that which cannot be changed, and may we have the wisdom to change that which can. May we know the difference, or something like that. It's a beautiful Christian prayer like that also. But importantly, the serenity prayer, yes, I forgot exactly how it goes, and maybe someone can remind us in the chat. But importantly, this movement from the unreal to the real, it's very important, because you have to ask, what is that movement? Today, I want to do nothing short of discuss with you the highest in Vedanta. To what degree we can do that, only Ma Kali can say. To what degree she will grace us and bless us with understanding, only Lord Ganesh and only our gurus can say. But we'll at least together strive to at the very least sketch out the highest ideas in Indian philosophy, the very subtlest spiritual ideas. Arguably, the ideas not only of the Upanishads, but of the treatment of the Upanishads by Gaudapada, one of the most radical, uncompromising non-dualists that India has ever produced. So we're going to look a little bit at Gaudapada's vision of non-duality, his mystic insight that arguably can be said to be, I suppose, the highest flights of Indian philosophy, the most thrilling, the most exhilarating, and it can be at once liberating if even intellectually understood. So that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to move from that which is unreal to that which is real. And the next line is important because it tells us what this movement actually constitutes. So when we talk tonight about the highest spiritual truth, note that the movement, the spiritual transformation here is really a transformation of darkness into light. And that does not mean literally turning on a ghee lamp or turning on your light. Like, that would be wonderful if I could flick the light switch on and be instantly liberated. That would be great. If that mantra was literal, if all I had to do was dispel physical darkness, then party time. We can do that quite easily. But no, obviously the darkness being spoken of here is not a physical darkness. It's the darkness of the mind, the clouding over of the intellect. It's ignorance. In other words, avidya. in Sanskrit. The in Sanskrit, when you put it in front of any word, it negates that word. So vidya, meaning knowledge. Avidya means perennial or primordial ignorance. Primal ignorance, if you will, basic ignorance, the very foundational error we've all made that has caused us to, quote unquote, fall from the garden. This is important. Our, quote unquote, fall from the garden is not moral or it's not moral judgment. It's intellectual error. And that is what the Christian mystics of old arguably intentionally use the word sin for. Sin in the Greek is to miss the mark, to simply be intellectually off, to have not understood correctly. It's as innocent as making a mistake on your math homework. That's what's happened to all of us. We haven't sinned and thus been cast out in an act of moral judgment, in an act of fire and brimstone. We've merely fumbled the equation and come to an incorrect conclusion about who we think we are. This is the darkness of avidya. And avidya, another name for it is maya, the darkness of maya, of unreality, of not knowing our true nature. So it's a movement from that ignorance to knowledge, which ultimately, as we said, must be knowledge of our true nature. If maya, by definition, is ignorance about who we are, a misunderstanding about our fundamental nature, then that can only be cured. Note, only be cured by knowledge of what you are. Only knowledge can dispel ignorance, not action, not ritual, not prayer, not hatha yoga practice. No amount of downward dog will dispel ignorance. It's another very, very important point that I have to stress. Why not? Are we just saying that? Why not? Why won't puja dispel ignorance? Why won't Vedic ritual or yagna dispel ignorance? Why won't downward dog or hatha yoga dispel ignorance? Why won't meditation dispel ignorance? You see, the reason these things cannot do away with the foundational problem of ignorance is because all of these things are actions. Meditation is something you do. It's an action. Arguably, it's a very subtle action. It's a kind of non-doing, but it's still a subtle form of activity. It's an action. It's something you do. You put it in your schedule. Today, I will meditate between this time and this time. That sounds like an action to me, you know. And when you're doing it, other people know you're doing it. And if we define work in physical terms, causing change, you know, using energy or whatever, work is, you know, change. And, you know, it's been a while since high school physics. But if you imply the definition of work here, you'll see, meditation, it meets the definition, the basic definition of work. It's karma. Meditation is a type of karma. It's a type of work, a subtle form of work, but work nonetheless. Yagna, puja, I mean, if meditation is work, to say nothing of yagna and puja, ritual worship, waving lamps and chanting mantras, these are all very obviously works, actions. Hatha yoga, doing poses here, doing poses there, chanting mantras, these are all actions. Action is the opposite to inaction. Now, if your problem was inaction, then action would adequately address that problem. Because action is the opposite of inaction. So to get rid of inaction, you use action. But is action the opposite of knowledge? Ignorance? Is action the opposite of ignorance? What is the opposite of ignorance? If not, knowledge. Only knowledge is the opposite of ignorance, not action. So the only way to remove ignorance is through knowledge, not through action. So to give an illustration, imagine you walked into a dark room, a physically dark room. Now the only thing that can take away that darkness, may it be a darkness of 1,000 years, a single flash of a match will illumine the room and dispel the darkness of 1,000 years. But it takes light to get rid of darkness. Only light can displace darkness. Note, darkness and light are mutually independent, or rather, where one is, the other isn't. Where there is darkness, by definition, there's no light. And where there is light, there's a dispelling of darkness. So once you bring light, given that light is the opposite of darkness, the darkness will run away. However, what if I walked into a dark room and just like clapped my hands and pretended to be a bat? I clapped my hands, I was like, I just like made sounds at every wall and clapped my hands. I wouldn't be dispelling the darkness. Although, maybe if I was a bat, I'd be able to find the walls through that alone. You know, it might be helpful, but it won't illumine the room. And why not? Because sound is not the opposite of darkness. Light is. Only light, which is the opposite of darkness, can dispel darkness. Sound, which is not the opposite of darkness, cannot dispel darkness. At most, sound can help us feel better about the darkness. Maybe we sing a song to feel better about ourselves if we're scared. Maybe sound can help dispel silence if the silence is oppressive, but it cannot dispel the darkness. You're certainly happier singing in the dark, but it's still a dark room. That's the important thing. The main point I want to carry forward here is this idea that only knowledge cures ignorance. Nothing else, friends, nothing else. No amount of action can cure the fundamental error, if indeed the fundamental error is an error of ignorance, the error of the intellect. Only knowledge can do this. And that's why I put before you now one of the most thrilling ideas in the study of non-duality. And it's this. I've said it time and time again, and I will say it millions of times more, God willing, because it's the one main idea that sets the soul on fire, but it can also lead to much self-delusion. And the idea is this. All it takes, friends, for complete liberation, for the attainment of the highest bliss, Paramananda Praptam, for the attainment of freedom from fear, Dukkham Nivritti, the permanent cessation of all suffering, all it takes for this ultimate goal is understanding. You just have to hear it once. All it takes for us, truly, is to hear one time what we truly are, to be fully convinced of it, and to live accordingly from that point on. That's it. Spirituality arguably begins after this knowledge, but if you think of spirituality as like healing or growth or transformation, all of that ends the moment you wake up to what you are. It's like waking up from a dream and realizing you don't need to fix anything because all of that brokenness was in the dream and not in you. It's like realizing the reflection in the mirror is not your real face. So however much dust is on the mirror, however much the mirror is cracked, it's not your problem. You don't need to scrub the mirror to clean your face. The problem is with the mirror, not with your face. Faultless and pure, you realize that what you are cannot be harmed. And that's true before this conversation. It will be true after this conversation. It's true whether we like it or not. It's true whether we know it or not. But to enjoy that truth, to embody that truth, and to live that truth for the benefit of ourselves and others, we must know the truth. A truth unknown, can it even be called a truth? Arguably, metaphysically, yes. But our purpose is to learn it, to know it. So the thrilling thing about this study is, if indeed knowledge alone is the opposite of ignorance, and secondly, if indeed ignorance alone is the foundational error, the problem, if ignorance alone is why we are suffering, then all it takes is insight. Vipassana, the Buddha called it. All it takes is one insight. And today, we're going to look at the insight of perhaps one of the subtlest and most radical of the non-dual philosophers, Gaudapada. And the reason we're doing that is because we want to complete our 7-step ladder. I don't think we'll complete it in this lecture. We'll probably take one more lecture to complete the 7-step ladder because I still want to revisit the 5 theories of causality and continue to show that they're all untrue, thereby proving this world never came into existence. That's also a big part of Gaudapada's project, which I don't think we'll get to today. But I want to maybe start with maybe the first piece that Gaudapada offers, which is this world is nothing but a dream. Consciousness alone exists and you are it. That's what we're going to be exploring today. So when we explore Gaudapada, when we explore Advaita Vedanta, especially at this level of subtlety, you must always remember that all it takes is one listening, one hearing, one insight. This could be the day for us. This moment could be it. We could all walk out of here free because already we are free. We just have to reclaim it. That to me is the most thrilling idea of non-duality, and it ought to be offered first. Okay, so Asatoma Sadgamaya, lead us from the unreal to the real. Then lead us from the darkness of ignorance to knowledge. Oh, one more piece here. Don't forget that the movement from knowledge to ignorance is not necessarily a movement in time, nor is it necessarily a movement in space. This is important because many people feel they need to go to a certain place for spirituality. Like they need to go to Varanasi or Vrindavan, Vrindavan, there the dust is sacred. Or I have to go to the Ganga because the water is there sacred. I have to go and eat the prasad from the temple of Jagannath of Puri. Like only then, in those places, will I attain spirituality. But how many of us are guilty of this error? I certainly am. I attribute certain places to have like, most I go, I think that somehow I will gain spirituality only if I go to those places. Now, this isn't dismissing the truth of Tanmatra. Certainly, there are places that are way more conducive to meditation than others. Certainly. And even in the Avadhuta Gita, I think one writer talks about Dattatreya's teachings in other places. And Dattatreya says, don't meditate where it's too hot or too cold. Don't meditate where there's like crossroads. You're advised not to meditate near insects, or like there's certain considerations, certainly, that make some places more spiritually conducive than others. But that being said, they're not conditions for spirituality. You can be just as easily liberated sitting here in your bedroom as you could in Varanasi. And Sri Ramakrishna used to say to people actually who are interested in going on pilgrimages, why go here and there? The sprout hasn't even turned into, the seedling hasn't turned into a sprout, much less a plant, much less the flowers. He used to say, what is here is there also. So if you have it here, you'll have it there. Ma Sharada used to say that. What's here is there also. And he would say, if you have it here, then you have it there. If you don't have it here, you won't have it there. So no amount of spiritual tourism will cure the lack of spirituality in you. And a good test case is this. Haven't you met all those like new age hippie types who have all been to India? They've gone to Kumbh Melas, they've sat in certain ashrams and been with this guru and that guru. They come back the same miserable bloke they've always been. Maybe with a few more pictures, maybe with a few more stories, some Rudraksha bead that they like get a lot of pride from because some great guru gave it to them. And then they'll kind of like lord it over you. They'll be like, I'm more a part of the in community of Indian spirituality because I went to the Kumbh Mela. I am so great. And then you other Caucasian white people, like, you are not real Indian, but I am real Indian. Because like that happens in LA. This idea of like, I have to go to a place for spiritual legitimacy. I see a lot of people who fetishize like Indian culture because they feel like only in India is there spirituality. That's not true. Yes, India is like the mother of spiritual traditions in the world. It's had an unprecedented 5,000 years. I mean, unprecedented in this yuga, but 5,000 years to develop its spiritual philosophy. So naturally, it's like the spiritual big brother and spiritual big sister of the world. But that doesn't mean that you can only find spirituality in India. But a lot of people feel that. So they feel like only when I go there, then I'll get it. That's an error. No, it's as present here as it is there. If it's not here now, it won't be there either. That's a good test case. Beware of those who ascribe their spirituality to their pilgrimages or to their certain like tourist vacations. No. Spirituality is not about place, nor is it about time. So time is not that important either. A lot of people think, oh, I must practice this much and only then I will be spiritual. So only a couple of years down the road will I deserve to know the truth. I'll only be a Brahmagyani after like this much of practice, or after this much time has elapsed, or in the next life, or maybe in the next 3 lives. These considerations of time also don't quite work. This is not a journey in space, nor is it a journey in time. For what we are talking about, Brahman, the reality par excellence, is hopefully, as we'll show today, outside of time and outside of space. Therefore, it cannot be obtained from within space, nor can it be obtained from within the time scale of past, present, future. And what that means for us, excitingly, friends, is that it's as available here and now as it will be anywhere, anytime. That's why studying this stuff is exciting. And whenever you study it, you must approach it, hopefully, with this attitude of like, this could be it. I demand to know now, and why shouldn't I know now? All the sages who have come before, they've known, they've discovered the truth. Why not me? Am I so different from all those great sages in the past that I shouldn't be a Brahmagyani? No, I have faith in my intellect. I have faith in my karmas. I have faith in the Lord. Ultimately, it's by the Lord's grace that I understand this. Why shouldn't the Lord help me understand it? Why shouldn't the Lord grace me with perfect Advaitic knowledge so that I may live the truth? That should be our attitude, arguably. Now, you'll recall in the Avaduta Gita, it opens with Ishvara Anugrahad Eva Pumsam Advaita Vasana, which means only through the grace of the Lord. Ishvara Anugraha. Anugraha means grace. Eva. Only through the grace of the Lord. Ishvara Anugrahad Eva Pumsam Advaita Vasana. The desire for studying non-duality comes. If you feel the inclination towards studying Advaita in any capacity, that already is the grace of God. So I think it's a beautiful idea that God's grace is manifested in our curiosity, our willingness to learn, and our desire to experience non-dual truths. That alone is the grace of the Lord. That you've even been hipped to this, that we're all together here studying this together in our study group, in this place. That is the grace of the Lord. That we have ears to hear it, and in some cases, eyes to see it, and more importantly, minds to contemplate it. That's a miracle. Our simple aliveness is a miracle, but even greater than that is the privilege that we get to enjoy now of studying Advaita Vedanta. For truly it is a privilege, and privilege of the highest sort, arguably. In the Katha Upanishad, there's a beautiful shloka about, hearing the self is auspicious. But better than that is talking about the self. But better than that is understanding the self. And best of all is realizing the self. So to even hear about it, to even talk about what we're going to talk about tonight, that alone is a blessing. So we must be very grateful for that already. To even hear about it is a blessing. Now the next line is interesting. Mahadbhaya paritrana vipranam uppajayate. The desire for non-duality, that vasana, the vasana, Advaita vasana, vipranam uppajayate. It arises spontaneously in the hearts of the wise, and I guess I'm loosely translating, its consummation saves one from the maha-abhaya, from great fear. Maha-bhaya, or danger, from great fear or great danger. So in the Bhagavad Gita, you'll see Krishna is echoing this sentiment when he says to Arjuna, even a little bit of practice, even a little bit of understanding goes a long way in saving you from fear. Swami Vivekananda said, the 4 principles of studying Advaita are A, Asangha, Ahimsa, Ananda, and abhaya. These are the 4 A's of Advaita. Ahimsa, non-violence. How can you injure others when you recognize that the one in you is the one in all? Sarva bhutani chatmanam, sarva bhutani chatmani, sarva bhuteshu chatmanam. The self in me is the self in all. All beings are in the self, and the self is in all beings. So what harm will come? Ahimsa. That's the first one, ahimsa. The second one, knowing that all beings are me, there must come ananda, great bliss, the joy of being so intimate with everyone that we're truly all just one consciousness. Ananda, great bliss and ecstasy, great oneness. Then there must come asanga, non-attachment. What is there outside of me that I need to grab to be fulfilled? What is there that I need to push away? All is me, I am all. So there should be asanga, great detachment or non-attachment. In front of sangha. Sangha means to be attached. So asanga. I don't know what that means for a sangha. Okay, sangha is different. This is a good sangha for ultimately to get asanga. And then most importantly, I would argue, is abhaya, fearlessness. What should I fear when there's no other? I alone, the self has all become, and the all is I. That idea that there's nothing other than me to harm me. And maybe today, I'll read you a little bit from Swami Vivekananda's experience of Advaita. And that will give you a sense of what it means to be fearless. So these are the 4 things. Ahimsa, non-violence, ananda, great bliss, asanga, non-attachment, and arguably, most importantly, fearlessness. These are all things that come about from the study of non-duality, and it is by the grace of God alone that we've come to it, that we have the privilege to hear it. And more importantly, if we understand it, again, that's outside of our control. Like, we can hear it all we want. We might not have the subtlety of intellect to understand, truly understand the implications of what we are hearing. So that too requires another act of grace. So not only is it an act of grace to be alive, it's also an act of grace to listen while alive to the Upanishads, to contemplate the Upanishads. It is a further act of grace to even understand what the Upanishads are saying. Without that grace, we might hear it might go into one ear, come out the other ear. As a Buddhist master said, we might hear it like a leaky pot, like a broken pot, or an upside down pot, or like a dirty pot. We might pollute it with our own misconceptions, thereby dangerously misguiding ourselves. That's a dirty pot. We might be a leaky pot. We might hear it and then forget it, not being able to retain it. Or like an upside down pot, we might hear it, but like I said, comes in one ear, goes out the other. It means nothing to us. That happens often. We hear it, but we don't hear it. Hath he but ears, he could hear. Let he who hath ears hear. That's the idea. So who gets the ears? Well, obviously, only those that the Lord favors, apparently. So it's not only grace to hear this, it's grace to understand it. And the ultimate grace, arguably, is the grace to realize it. No, the grace to realize it. The grace to live it, to live according to what you hear. So this is my invitation to you all. If you have understood it, declare it, not to like publicly, obnoxiously, but to yourself. In the privacy of your own intellect, say, I know the truth. I know the truth. I'm convinced that I am the self. Nor am I not the body am I, nor am I the mind. Unattached am I, attached, unattached, unattached. Again and again, I reclaim my identity as that unattached one. I know it. So why should I not act according to that? If lust comes, I deal it the sledgehammer blow of knowledge. Say, I know I am the self. What is this tingle in the body to me? If sickness comes, endure it patiently and bravely, giving the body its rest and medicine and what it needs, but internally knowing it's nothing to you. Let this body live one day, let it live 100 years. What is it to you? Like that. You must have this kind of radical, furious courage once you have this knowledge. And if we don't yet understand it, that's why we have to argue and debate and really make sure you ask hard questions. Because it's not a path of faith, again. It's believing in it won't do. It can, but better than believing is realizing, understanding. So in the Q&A, maybe after we have our lecture, rigorously ask questions, and let's all of us together do our best to reconcile and resolve those questions. Okay, so the ultimate grace of God will be in not only hearing it and not only in understanding it, but ultimately in realizing it, in walking the talk and in living it. That's the most important thing. Living the truth, arguably. So you can always tell some unbaked, uncooked Brahmagyani from one who is sincerely studying Advaita by the degree of renunciation that they manifest in their lives. That's the difference. People can talk big game all day, but if there isn't actual renunciation reflected in their time, in their priorities, in their behavior, then it's not working. And why isn't it working? Probably because it's not being understood. And why is it not being understood? Probably because it's not being heard. And why is it not being heard? Ultimately because the grace of God has not yet been actualized in that person's life. That's the thing. So I wanted to share with you a piece before we get into this very abstract and sophisticated, I hope, argument of Gaudapada. Before we get into that, I wanted to offer you a piece that my guru so graciously gave to me. And it's about hubris. So for a long time in my study of Advaita, I've been very terrified of hubris because I've had experiences in the past where I claim I am the self only to be humiliated the next moment. In other words, only to be proven wrong. I thought I knew, and then the very next moment I realized how much I didn't know. Right? We've all had that experience. We come to a few Advaita lectures, we read a few books, and then we think we know. But it's not so easy actually. It sounds easy and it's simple. It's simple and it's direct, but by no means does that make it easy. To realize you are the self means undoing not just a lifetime of conditioning, but literal like centuries, if not millennia of conditioning. I mean, arguably every samskara from every incarnation you've ever had is bearing upon this present moment to veil your true identity for you, most of the time. Some samskaras have brought us here. Some samskaras, some of those samskaras have been conducive to us coming to spirituality and us coming to this highest spirituality, this Advaita. However, most of our samskaras arguably are taking us out into the world. These outward going tendencies to look for fulfillment in those things that can't fulfill us. That's typically our predicament. So just because we think we know, our samskaras the very next moment might show us that we don't. I'm reminded of a story with Ma Sharada. Once a boy put a chair in front of Ma Sharada, sat down and said, I will not get up off of this seat until you liberate me or until I am liberated. And this is the attitude of the Buddha. The Buddha sat under a tree and said, I'm not going to get up from meditation until I do it, until I solve this riddle of old age, sickness, and death. Until I solve life, I'm not going to get up off this seat. Can you imagine that power for the Buddha to say, this is my life's purpose, and I will rather die than leave it unfulfilled. I'm going to sit here. No matter what, come hell or high water, I'm not moving until I figure it out. So perhaps inspired by this story of the Buddha, this young boy put a chair down in front of Holy Mother and he sat in front of Holy Mother, who, by the way, could in a touch or in a glance convey full Brahmagyana, who can convey full understanding of Brahman. So he asked, he said, give it to me. And Mother said, not yet. And he said, put a chair there. He sat down, he said, no matter what, I'm not leaving this chair until you give it to me. And Mother, whimsically, she says something like, you can decide that you'll stay in the chair, but your karma will kick you out of it. I'm paraphrasing. You can say all you want. I'm going to stay in this chair until I'm a Brahmagyani. Your karma, meaning your tendencies, your proclivities, your conditioning, will kick you out of that chair. I'm sorry, but our habits don't lie. If we say we are knowing this, but then we act another way, we've been proven wrong. And so time and time again, in my study of Advaita, this has been the reality of my sadhana. Firm conviction that I am the self. I'll sit and meditate in Swamiji's room in Pasadena house. And then I'll step out, look around the house and be like, now I will roar like a lion. Why should I be a sheep anymore? I've seen my face in the water. Swamiji showed me I am the self. I walk out. Of course, not in an obnoxious way. I haven't stooped that low, except with you people. With you people, I'm particularly obnoxious. But in public, of course, one shouldn't walk around saying, I am the self. Shivoham Shiva. Publicly, don't say it. But privately, I truly thought, I had this conviction, truly. I know. And I'm familiar with all the arguments. How many lectures can I give on this stuff? Writing books, I can really talk my ass off when it comes to Advaita Vedanta. But what does it matter at the end of the day? Because walking out of Swamiji's room, convinced I am the self, it's not an hour or two before something shows me that I don't know it, that I haven't heard it. You see, this is the important thing. This is our struggle. And if we're honest, we're able to see how we're not yet truly, we can talk all we want. But if the life doesn't show it, then we don't know it. That's what we would say. It's so easy. But if there is some gap between what you think you know and what you do, that might be knowledge in one sense of the word, but it's not gnosis, it's not wisdom, it's not jnana in our sense of the word. In Indian philosophy, we hold jnana to a very high standard. The bar is actualizing, living, and acting according to what you know, right? So how does that happen if not by the grace of God? For it's only by the grace of God that I hear it. It is only by the grace of God that I understand it, and ultimately it's only by the grace of God that I can live it. So I asked my guru, I said, Gurudev, my problem is that I fear hubris. I fear self-delusion. I study Advaita. My heart sings when I chant Nirvana Shatakam in the mornings. I feel so happy. I feel that it resonates with me so much. I'll chant. Loudly I'll chant in my house. Hannah's the only one who suffers. But loudly I'll chant, Manno buddhyankara chitani naham nacha shrotra jive nacha krana netre nacha vyoma bhumi na tejo na vayus chidananda rupaha shivoham shivoham chidananda rupaha shivoham shivoham. Real feeling I want to say that. I am not the mind. I am not the intellect. I am not the ego. I am not the memory or my samskaras. I am not the body and its changes. I am not the organs of perception like the eyes and the nose. I am not the five elements like the earth or the air or the fire. I am not any of these. I am consciousness, bliss, absolute. I am he, I am he. I am Shiva, I am Shiva. I am blessed, I am blessed, I am bliss, I am bliss. I want to say that. And yet, is that not violating another very important principle, which is truth? Here's another thing. We cannot honestly be on the path of Advaita if we tell lies in any capacity. If we make any discounts with truth in any area of our lives whatsoever, how then can we realize truth? If we're passionately attached to truth, that's not, I mean, if truly we were passionately attached to truth, why should we lie? Even small white lies, why should we tell them? That shows that we're not truly valuing truth, right? So now I'm stuck between a rock and a hard place. The joy of Advaita and declaring the ultimate truth, which is true no matter what, whether I know it or not, whether I like it or not, I am the self. That's the truth. I'm convinced of it. And yet, for Nish to say, Shivoham, maybe there's a problem here. Maybe there's an untruth. For maybe perhaps I'm not yet ripe enough to say. Who am I to say I am Shiva? Better to take the servant's attitude, right? As Sri Ramakrishna would advise us. Better to say, Shivotvam, thou art the Lord, and I am thy humble servant. Thou art the whole, and I am the part. But wouldn't it be hubris at this level of my sadhana, beginner as I am, to say, I am the self? That would, to me, seem like a grave mistake. It would seem like hubris. So the more I practice Advaita, the more my confidence turns, hopefully, I want it to be humility, but I think really it's fear. It's fear of claiming that identity and the fear of living according to the ideals of that identity. It's the fear of hypocrisy, the fear of saying one thing and acting differently, right? That's the fear of Advaita that was starting to grow in me. So I went to my guru and I asked, what do I do? Should I? And my first solution was this. I actually stopped saying Shivoham for a while. I was inspired by one of Sri Ramakrishna's moods. And whenever I got to that line, Chidananda Rupaha, I would always sing Shivotvam, Shivotvam. I am not Shiva. No way. I am the servant of Shiva, Shiva Das. Thou art Shiva. Thou art the Lord. And more importantly, thou art Shiva. All of you. I want to see Shiva in you. I want to see Shiva in the Lord. But God forbid, I claim to see that I am Shiva before I can truly say it, So that was my solution. And then the first thing my guru said to me, he laughed and he said, what? Yeah, no, you. He laughed and he said, how can you see the Lord in others if you have not yet seen the Lord in yourself? This is Swamiji's realization. Having known himself to be the self, only then can he say, Shiva Jnana Jiva Seva. Like only when I know that I'm Shiva, can I serve the individual as other individuals as Shiva. Only the knowledge of non-duality gives you the metaphysical basis for the ethic of serving everyone as yourself. So he's right. I can't see others as Shiva if I don't see myself as Shiva. After all, what you see in others is only there in you. So if you really can see the self in others, then you should have already been able to see the self in yourself, right? Arguably. And then what about Shivoham, Shivotvam, God, thou alone are the absolute. And you all know the absolute that we talk about in Vedanta, Nirguna Brahman, which you learned last week, is none other than Saguna Brahman. So here I'll just plug last week's lecture because there we talked about all the 5 different conceptions of God and all the 5 different mystical means whereby we can have experiences on each of these levels. At the highest of levels, we have Nirguna Nirakara, the formless absolute that is the self. But also we know that Saguna Nirakara, the formless God, the Abrahamic faiths, the idea of the God that cannot be put into this or that form, that formless God, we know it's one and the same. As a snake is not different from its wriggling motion, as Ramakrishna used to say, so too is Nirguna Nirakara, the formless Brahman, not different from Saguna Nirakara, the formless God with attributes. So obviously these two aren't different. So then wouldn't it be better to relate to it as a devotee than as an Advaitin? That was my concern. So I went to my guru about that, and his piece was so beautiful. It was, no, why would you do that? When you study Vedanta, declare with a lion's roar the truth of Vedanta. Of course, I mean, not obnoxiously in public, internally. Declare with a lion's roar the truth of Vedanta. Sing Nirvana Shatakam with all of your heart and might, believing in its message. Then, and this is the key, right after you do that, pray to the Lord that you may realize that highest truth. After you claim the absolute truth, you take a stand first in the absolute and you say, I am absolutely speaking conscious bliss absolute, okay? You make that stand on the absolute, and then in the relative, you pray fervently that the absolute might make such an imprint on your mind that the mind is illumined by that knowledge. Diyoyonat prachodayat. Lord, may my mind be illumined by Advaitic knowledge. May I know the truth. And it's already true. It was always true. It always will be true. But may I know the truth. And only ultimately it is by your grace that I will know the truth. Okay. That's the first thing I want to say is that preface, that it takes grace to hear it. It takes grace to understand it. It takes grace to live it. So then how do we get that grace? This is the next question, because some traditions will say, oh, if that's the case, if only grace alone is the factor here, then what should I do? I should just wait. What can I do? I'm just going to sit here and wait for Ma Kali to liberate me. I'll wait for Jesus. Let him do it. I don't have to take any responsibility for my action. If I do anything evil, it's the devil. If anything good is asked of me, no, I'll wait for Jesus. Right? Like we meet people who don't do anything about spiritual life because they feel, and to their credit, they've understood that it takes grace, that by our own efforts, really so little can be done unless there's that grace. So that's their insight. They're right to think that, but they're wrong to think there's nothing they can do. They're wrong to think that all I have to do is sit on my ass and like go to church every now and then and like pray and then hopefully one day it'll happen. It won't. It won't happen at all if we don't do anything about it. It can. There are some rare instances, but even then, you have to say that in previous lives, they must have done a lot of sadhana. So what is sadhana? Spiritual practice. What is that really? Arguably, it's, as Sri Ramakrishna says, preparing oneself to receive the grace that is always ever present anyway. So this is the funny thing about the grace of God. And this piece I got from Swami Sarvapriyanandaji. We're taking a walk downhill, interestingly. I thought it was poetic that we were walking downhill. And we are walking downhill. And a brother disciple says to Swami Sarvapriyanandaji, and I was standing way at the back. And my brother disciple was between me and Swami Sarvapriyanandaji was leading. And so my brother disciple asks, but isn't it ultimately all grace anyway? This Advaita stuff, like ultimately it's about God, right? So should I just wait for grace? And Swami Sarvapriyanandaji, without missing a beat, said, but grace is always flowing. It's always present. Notice what Swami Sarvapriyanandaji did. Like Shankara, he almost said like grace is a given. So no need to talk about grace. Like, you know, the idea that I'll wait for grace. No, grace is here. Grace is always blowing. And Sri Ramakrishna gave the parable of the winds. The winds are always blowing, but it won't matter that they're blowing if we don't unfasten the sail. So the ground is sloping downward, certainly, but we're still walking, no? That walking is still important. So if that first mantra that we sung today, Asatoma Sadgamaya, Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya, Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya, if that's understandable to us, that indeed this is the benefits of understanding the self, then the next mantra becomes even more important. Danur Grihitva Upanishadam Mahasram, Sharam Upasa Nishitam Samdayita, Ayamya Tadbhavagatena Chitasa, Laksham Tadevaksharam Somya Vidhi. The Mundaka Upanishad offers us a lot of like practical instructions. And it's this, Danur Grihitva Upanishadam Mahasram. So let's place this firmly in our hearts. We must first pick up the bow. We can't go and fight the spiritual battles without first picking up the bow. What is the bow? It's the Upanishads. Danur Grihitva Upanishadam Mahastram. The bow is the Upanishad. And not only is it any bow, it's Maharashtram. It's the great Astra. It's the great weapon. Maha Astra. It's the great weapon. The greatest of all bows is the Upanishad. There's that Outcast song, Atlian, you know, and they say, I put away my Glock because I have a much more powerful weapon now. It's like that. We can put away all physical weapons because this is the most powerful weapon of them all. The bow of the Upanishads. Danur Grihitva Upanishadam Mahasram. Remember that. As you study this, remember you are being armed. Exactly. Like spinning a Glock in your hand with the most powerful gangster shit. This is like gangster shit. You know, this is like, and the Aryan people, arguably the nomadic tribes of northern India, those Indus-Sarasvati Valley people, they're like a warrior people. You know, riding on horseback, shooting bows, like a very warrior type group. But interestingly, until the Mughal invasion of the 13th century, India has never seen a religious war. There have been debates in Benares and Nadia. Sects like Jainism and Buddhism and Sikhism have been sprouting up. But before the 13th century invasion, no war. No one fought wars for religion. People fought wars for other things, but never for religion, interestingly. Why? Because the weapons have been internalized. Now, the great bow, the great weapon is the Upanishads. You pick it up, but you must pick it up. So this is what we do. We pick up studies, and it's not easy, right? Like studying this stuff is not easy. It's confusing. It's like intellectually demanding, but we have to pick up the bow. Arguably, Rama, you know, picked up the bow because he had so much, like he was an avatara. So can we even pick up the bow? That's another question. Are we even strong enough to pick up the bow that is the Upanishads? But nothing happens until we try. So to pick up the bow first. Then the next thing is super important, which is to place on the bow the arrow. What is a bow without an arrow? We place an arrow. What is the arrow? It's the mind sharpened through austerity, meaning meditation and selfless service. Nishkama karma, selfless service, or acts done for others for no other reason than for serving them as the Lord. So these two things, meditation and selfless service, Raja Yoga and Karma Yoga, this constitutes the main sadhana in the study of Vedanta. What you do is you do your Karma Yoga and you meditate, and that's a given. So it's true that all it takes is knowledge, but to be in the place where we can have that knowledge, action is required as a prerequisite. So we can't just be like all those non-dual teachers today, the Neo-Advaitins who say you don't have to do anything. You just have to know. No. To know, to truly know, you must do a lot. Do not, even for a moment, underestimate the amount of spiritual work this requires. It cannot be had overnight, although theoretically, technically it can. Relatively, truthfully speaking, for us who are enmeshed in Maya, much meditation is required. And please don't underestimate how much. No, I'm saying we have so many lifetimes worth of conditioning. You think just a simple 20 minutes in the morning, 20 minutes in the evening will erase all of that? No, I'm not saying that's not good. It's wonderful. Even 2 minutes of meditation a day, wow, that's 2 minutes more than we would have done. I don't mean to talk down or demean our practice, but my God, if we think that we can have this knowledge without the level of practice that it takes to have it, then friends, we are deluding ourselves. That's another piece. Another piece of why we don't yet have abiding Advaitic knowledge is because we have by no means unfurled our sails. Although a lot of us, we like to think that we have. We think that what we're doing is enough, that we are meditating enough, that we're serving others selflessly enough, that we're doing enough japa, that we're practicing enough. Never will that be the case, right? So arguably we have to light this fire of, wait, if I really want Brahma Jnana, and why should I not want it? It being, after all I've ever wanted anyway, what's my excuse for not making it a priority? And what's my excuse for not intensifying my practice, both in terms of quantity and quality every day in increments? It won't do to suddenly overnight in a spirit of passion, like do 16 hours of meditation when I'm only used to 5 minutes twice a day. Beware of like burnout and all that crazy stuff. But it also won't do to say, oh, I don't need any action. I'll just do 5 minutes today, 5 minutes tomorrow. No. We must make sure that every day we're incrementally improving our practice. This must be a given. We must make sure we're doing more karma yoga than we did the day before. We must make sure we're doing more meditation. And not only that, better meditation. We have to see to it that we're actually there, present and intending to focus. These are the two actions, karma yoga and jnana yoga, which is putting the arrow in the bow. So the bow is the Upanishads, but you can't just go into the Upanishads. You must place upon it the arrow of the mind purified. Purified through selfless service, purified through meditation. So chitta shuddhi, the purification of the intellect is required, and chitta shuddhi can only happen through karma yoga. Chitta shuddhi, the purification of the mind is, Raja yoga, karma and Raja yoga. Yoga, the practice, is the only way to create chitta shuddhi. That's what I mean. Okay, once we have chitta shuddhi, then the question becomes, okay, how will we realize it? Draw back the bowstring. So drawing back the bowstring is a symbol for renunciation, but perhaps more accurately, what renunciation really means is mental renunciation. Sri Ramakrishna used to say over and over, what's wanting is mental renunciation. Of course, a lot of people delude themselves by saying they have mental renunciation. Therefore, they don't need any kind of external renunciation, maybe in some cases. But even if you have external renunciation without this kind of conviction to go inward, it won't matter. What matters is understanding that what you are seeking is not out there, rather it's in here. And so that reorientation of I will live my life for what's inside with my eyes closed is very valuable. A good way to kind of check how committed we are to this is how many times do we open our eyes in meditation? Like how many times are we shifting about, opening our eyes, getting up to go to the kitchen, relighting the incense? Like all of this is evidence of an externalized mind. We cannot sit and meditate because we're always thinking about something out there. So if we say, I will meditate for an hour, watch closely how often it is we open our eyes, come out of that meditation, do this, do that. We're not actually sitting there. Why aren't we sitting there? Because we're not yet clear about our conviction to stay inward, to go inward, to dive down deep to the very core of our being. If we were convinced that what we were looking for was here, why open the eyes, go here, go there? I mean, ultimately, this is about seeing God with eyes open, ultimately. Is God so mean a thing that you can lock him up in the prison of samadhi? No. Ultimately, obviously, everything is nothing other than God. That's the highest flight that we'll get to. But at least when it comes to practice, why do we open our eyes, go here, go there, run here, run there? If that's happening, we've not yet drawn back the bowstring of inwardness, of true pratyahara. And then only we can strike upon thy mark. Knowledge, bliss, consciousness, absolute. Brahman itself. See? So all of this preamble is very, very necessary because we're now about to take ourselves to the very highest, the seventh rung of our 7 steps to enlightenment, the 7th rung of the ladder. And Swami Vivekananda would say, it's such a lofty peak that the lung scarce dare breathe such rarefied air. This philosophy can be thrilling. It can be invigorating. It's heady stuff, but it can be terrifying. And most of all, it can be confusing. We might not understand it. We might misunderstand it. All of this can be troubleshooted if we look to our practice. We must ask, grace is always blowing, but do we deserve it? Obviously we do. Obviously we do. All of us deserve grace. But it is grace to practice, and it is by practice alone that we become ready for more grace. We become receptive for more grace. So in opening this lecture, I'd like to convey the joy of the statement that knowledge alone is what saves us. Knowledge alone is what cures. It's not a journey in time. It's not a journey in space. It's a journey from not knowing to knowing. And given that knowledge saves us, we might be deluded into thinking knowledge only. And yes, knowledge only, but for that knowledge, there must be much action. So when we come on Mondays, especially since we're about to, I hope, God willing, get into some rarefied areas, even on Fridays, we are starting to look at Mandukya and stuff like that. Because we're starting to get into rarefied areas, for us to best serve each other, we have to hold ourselves to the highest standards of spiritual life. And if this sounds intimidating, that's okay. What does Yoda say, right, in Star Wars? It was like, what is it? Are you scared? And Luke says no. And then Yoda says, you will be. You will be. Because, training to be a Jedi is not just running around with a green guy on your back. It's walking into a dark cave when you don't want to. Right? It's not listening to your urges, even when you want to. It's difficult. Spiritual life is difficult. But therein lies the great adventure. So now, in opening the book to Gaudapada, let's first remind ourselves the level of practice we need, and let's say that we are strong enough to do it. Why not? What's wrong? Give one life to God, give one life to spirituality. We have so many. And worst, all of this turns out to be a farce. Pascal's wager, next life I can be materialistic as I want. And if I take Krishna's assurance, if I fail as a yogi, I'll be born into a wealthy family, I'll have all that stuff. So don't worry, whatever, like next life I'll be materialistic, okay? Next life I'll chase fame, whatever. Right now, let this whole life be consecrated to spirituality. Why not? Why not one life? What's one life in all the 100,000 millions I've lived? This life I will give. Let it be this life. Why not? So that attitude of let's just go hard kind of attitude in Advaita. And do you see the brilliance here of the Advaitic method? Because it's saying on one hand, go hard, go super, super hard, but don't delude yourself into thinking that that's what it takes. On the other hand, it says, knowledge alone is what it takes. You've always been free. You always will be free. You're free now. So relax. No amount of practice will change your fundamental freedom. However, in order to prevent this from becoming self-delusion, practice is emphasized. And in order for practice to prevent that from becoming an attachment, this knowledge is emphasized. You see? So I wanted to spend some time kind of sketching out the way to read Gaudapada, to reverentially read Gaudapada. Otherwise, it at best becomes armchair occultism. At worst, it can be very scary, very disturbing. Gaudapada can be pretty disturbing at times and easily misunderstood. Because by studying it, we almost feel like, I don't need to practice anymore. I don't need to pray anymore. And I guess it's needless to say, right? Like puja, prayer, establishing a relationship with your own version of the divine, that is like preliminary to even meditation. It's very hard to meditate if you don't have yet love. As we were saying in the puja class before this lecture, bhakti is everything. Bhakti, you must have love. Otherwise, philosophy is just dry bones, as Swamiji says. With love, philosophy becomes poetry. Psychology or Raja Yoga becomes nothing but a mere theory without love. But with love, it becomes true mysticism. And work without love is drudgery. But with love, here on Labor Day, with love, it's no longer a labor. It's a labor of love, meaning it's joy. It's the most delicious thing in the world. So love is everything. Love for spiritual life is everything. And arguably, you only love that which is delightful, that which produces ecstasy and joy in you. So arguably, the one thing of note is note when you are enjoying yourself. Like right now, if you are enjoying this, say to the mind, how nice. We are studying philosophy. It's fun. I like this. I like the taste of spiritual philosophy. When you do puja and you feel that wonderful feeling of sanctity and purity, you say, oh mind, how nice is this feeling of purity and joy. I like this. I like doing puja. And then you serve others selflessly and you feel that sort of grandeur and joy. And you say, oh mind, look how nice it is to work selflessly with no thought of reward. So you must say to your mind over and over, I like meditation. I like lectures. and studying. I like prayer and puja. I like spiritual life. That's bhakti, creating like a taste, a rasa, that taste of, this is sweeter. This is more joyful than like a frantic night out in the club. No, I'm going to maybe still want those, but as I start to want more subtle, more refined joys, those other ones will be naturally edged away. Every step we take to the west is one step away from the east. So every time we allow ourselves to enjoy and delight in spiritual life, that's a way in which we can deal with those pleasures that we are chained to, yet don't ultimately pleasure us. That's bhakti. So that bhakti yoga component sets us up for raja and karma yoga. All three together must be a given when we come to jnana yoga. You can't just do this on its own. Not anymore. We must make sure we have all the other pieces. Given that the pieces are in place, that's the big disclaimer. Now we can, for just a few moments, look at Gaudapada. Okay. Are you ready? It's exciting. Let's do it. Next week's lecture, by the way, I'm going to, hopefully, if we can have the lecture, it'll be something like 17 reasons or 18 reasons, right, Emerson, why you are not the body and not the mind. So next week, we'll really go hard. We'll offer as many possible reasons. Today, we'll just offer a very simple one. To make this case, consciousness alone exists and you are it. That's the only point we want to make today. And it can be arrived at in various ways. You'll recall that our central task today is to understand the 7th rung of our ladder called the 7 Steps to Enlightenment. It's a throwaway sentence that we got from the Shankaracharya of Puri, and it takes us from the unreal to the real. It takes us from the gross to the subtle. So briefly, it goes like this. Jagat, it starts with the perceivable universe, is level 0, arguably, or level 1. It's level 1. Most of us start at Jagat, and many of us stop at Jagat. We don't inquire as to what is this world really. We just take it at face value, and we live our life as if trying to build IKEA furniture without the manual. Unthinkingly, we go about things and do what advertising tells us, and often we end up very miserable at the end of it. So that's Jagat. If we go to level 2, Panchabhuta Vilasa, we'll gain a power, an ability. And that's the ability to see everything as nothing other than the play of the 5 elements. It allows us to kind of perceive a kind of preliminary oneness in things. To say that, this looks like a table. Ultimately, it's atoms, though. Ultimately, it's strings. That looks like a chair, but ultimately, it's atoms. Ultimately, it's strings. While things around me look different, while I perceive manifold, actually, there's a unity, at least physically. So this the physicist can say, without any theology, without any spirituality, a physicist, if they stay true to their discovery, to their equation, will at least be able to say, all of this is nothing but the dance of matter and energy. This is very important, because if you can meaningfully say this, then why should you prefer one thing over another? Everything is just matter and energy anyway. Why privilege this piece of matter and energy over that piece of matter and energy? Right? It's a beautiful thing to realize that everything is nothing but matter and energy, nothing but the 5 elements, nothing but atoms, nothing but strings. Pick your fighter, whatever your basic fundamental physical property is, use that and understand that nothing is other than just that, appearing now as a table, now as a chair. So you can perceive now underlying unity amidst this manifold diversity. That's the first kind of achievement unlocked in the 7-rung ladder. And it should help you with renunciation. You should feel like, why should I prefer ice cream over, vegetables? It's the same. Really, what we're trying to do here is we're trying to divest our stories of their meaning, our stories of difference, our stories of differentiation. And that even an atheist materialist scientist can do. Okay, so that's level 2. Level 3 is somewhat subtler. Level 3 creates real renunciation. Level 3 is Maya Vilasa. So I'll put it here, Jagat. Oh, I'm texting just Rory. So sad. Rory is getting a pointed message. No, somehow I just went to Rory. Jagat, Pancha, Bhuta, Vilasa, play of 5 elements. Play of 5 elements. And then 3, we have Maya Vilasa, which means the play of Maya, which really just means it's a paradox. All of this that we say is the perceivable universe is a paradox. Time is a paradox. Space is a paradox. Causality is a paradox. This world is an error. It's a logical fallacy. Isn't that a crazy statement? The world that you perceive is a logical fallacy. And in our lecture, Why You Should Renounce the World Completely, which arguably is our least clickbaity title or our most clickbaity title, depending on where you are on that spectrum. But in that lecture, we spent a lot of time proving that this world is incoherent. It's inscrutable. By the way, if we understand this, the achievement that we unlocked is this. We no longer expect people to be nice to us. We no longer expect to the world to be fair, for things to be fair, or for like things to go well for us. You know, all of us, I think, operate under this assumption that everyone should be nice to me all the time. And the moment someone isn't, I act in protest as if this is somehow fundamentally against the way things are supposed to be. What? What do you mean the way things are supposed to be? If you think there's order here in Maya, you will be disappointed. There isn't. It's inscrutable, it's disordered, it's paradoxical, it's crazy. Remember who made it. My mother, reeling under the spell of a divine drunkenness. Who but a mad woman would create this madhouse in which all of us madcaps are howling like lunatics newly released from the asylum? Be careful. If you look for order and sanity in a crazy, disordered, and insane world, you'll be disappointed. So if you understand level 3, Maya Vilasa, this should manifest as not needing people to be nice to you because you no longer expect them to. Not needing people to be loyal and truthful to you because you no longer expect them to. And not needing the world to be kind and fair to you because you no longer expect it to. Now, if we stopped here, we might end up with a cynicism and a nihilism. That would be dangerous. So if we manage to prove that the world is, inscrutable, and that things aren't always going to go well, we might end up being a very bitter nihilist. If we end up saying, oh yeah, all of this is just matter and energy anyway, we might have the opposite takeaway. However, what we want, arguably, is the truth, and the truth is not a bringing down of the divine to the world, it's an elevation of the world to the divine. So that's the next rung of the ladder, which is very important. Panchabhuta Vilasa, Maya Vilasa gives us some level of renunciation, some level of detachment, some level of being okay with things not being okay, or being preferenceless to some degree, right? But the next level is what gives us something very beautiful, which is Maya, this inscrutable world, is not just meaningless for no reason. There's a reason actually, and it's the play of the Lord. Chid means consciousness, Vilasa means the play. So Maya, it's no longer the play of just Maya. Maya itself is the play of the Lord. So it's Ma Kali playing. Ma Kali, the primordial energy, manifests herself as this world that you see around you to play. She just is having fun, this is her play. So there's that beautiful story that Gurudev told on Saturday about, the frog. The Rama was putting the arrow in the river and it stabbed a frog and the frog wasn't croaking. And later Rama looked and said, oh, my frog, why didn't you croak? And the frog said, oh, when bad things happen to me, I croak. But I croak your name. I croak Rama, Rama, Rama. When bad things are happening to me because of Rama, who am I going to croak to? So I kept silent. The idea is like when God visits tragedy upon you, it's the bhakta sees it as grace. You don't croak, you don't complain. Lord is putting me here, I'll enjoy it. Lord thinks this is appropriate for me, I'll enjoy it. Every horrible bit of suffering in your life, if you can understand that it was Lord's grace, that's a hard thing to swallow, but if you can understand it's the Lord's grace, you can quietly accept it. Even though it feels painful, you can say, my Lord is doing it. For some reason, maybe I can't see the reason, but I don't know. My Lord is doing it, so it must be all right. Like that, like that's the strength of the bhakta, and you get that on level 4. You see, so I would argue level 3 and level 4 are very close. If you have level 3 without level 4, you'll get in trouble. You might end up with some cynicism or nihilism. Arguably though, in order to get level 3, it requires reference to level 4. You must be convinced in the existence of something greater in order to renounce this world. If you're not convinced of that transcendental existence, then why should you renounce this world? It's all that you got. So like any materialist hedonist, you'll plunge into the vanities of the world and over be dissatisfied with orgasms and parties and wealth and power and philanthropic activities. Do that. As many lives you want to do that, but it will always come up short. So without reference to something transcendental, this becomes hedonism. Arguably, you can't really renounce Maya without reference to that which is beyond Maya. Chit, pure consciousness, or God. Okay, that's the first 4 rungs of the ladder. And already, friends, we have a nice working spirituality. This is all it takes. We don't need to do anything more. But necessarily, if we progress on the spiritual path, we'll start to relearn. Yeah, though this be madness, there's a method in it. Mother is the constant. Then we learn. And this is the eerie thing. Chid Vivarta. I should put it this way. That all of this Maya is not the play of consciousness. It doesn't have that level of intentionality. It's the appearance in consciousness. This is a higher realization, arguably. The first realization is this is a play. This is God's play. God manifests herself as all of this to play. A wave rises from the ocean and then it fights with other waves. It makes love to other waves. It plays with other waves and then it goes back into the ocean. So waves are the play of the ocean, you could argue. right? Waves are the play of the ocean. In the same way that this universe, with all of its inscrutable madness, is just the hysterical laughter of Ma Kali, playing this way, now like this person, now like that person. She's playing, right? So it gives us this impression that this world is real, and it's the real play of a real God. Now we go a little deeper and we realize, actually, God is so real that it alone is real, and this world that seemed to be real, seemed to be a second reality apart from God, or maybe a part of God, an extension of God, is actually only an appearance in God. So this next piece that I want to offer is central to Gaudapada's pedagogy, and we'll pick it up a bit more next week, and it's the dream analogy. It's the dream pedagogy. So consider this. When you go to sleep tonight, or rather I should say last night, when you went to sleep last night, maybe you had a dream. Now, did you sit down before you went to bed and think about what kind of dream you want to have? I mean, barring any lucid dreaming or any mystics in the room who experiment with stuff like that, just like a regular, everyday, mundane dream. I mean, how often do we sit down and say, this is exactly the dream that I'm going to dream tonight for these reasons? I want to play in this particular way. I want these things to happen. I mean, not really I don't really feel that impulse. Why? Because I know I'll wake up and it'll all go away anyway. You know, it's frivolous. The dream is so frivolous. It comes and it goes, and nothing that happens in it is to me ultimately real. I might win the lottery in my dream. I don't ultimately care when I wake up, because that money is not legal tender in my waking life, you know? So I don't really care what goes on in my dream, because the dream is just an appearance in me. So let the dream be whatever it wants to be. I'm not going to sit down and design a dream. It's so immaterial, and not only that, so transient. It comes and it goes in a matter of, I don't know, how many hours I sleep, how little is the dream. Comes and it goes. Because I know the dream is so intangible, so immaterial, so ultimately transient, I don't put too much thought into it. I just go to sleep. And then what happens? A dream appears. It appears fully formed. There was no like long process of evolution whereby single cell organisms ultimately became you. No. The whole world, fully formed, appeared in your dream, and you had a certain dream existence. You did certain dream things with certain dream people, and just as like randomly as it came into being, just as randomly it went out of existence too the moment you woke up. Isn't that interesting? The dream just appears. For no rhyme and reason, it just appeared, and again, for no rhyme and reason, it just disappeared. Do you feel that? The eeriness of that? You don't plan your dreams. You can't say the dream is the play of the waker. No, the dream just appears and it just disappears. Ultimately, it's nothing to you. Ultimately, when you speak as a waker, ultimately the dream is nothing to you. In fact, think about all the really meaningful dreams you've had. Even when you wake up and you're like, this is a meaningful dream, where are they now? Arguably, their meaning has diminished over time. Like the dream is not as real, arguably, as the waking, and thereby it can be dismissed as a dream. Just like that, this world is an appearance in consciousness. Exactly. You wake up whenever you want. Suddenly you might wake up by the grace of the Lord, and you might realize, oh my God, my whole life up till now, my life right now, and my life in the future is like as random as a dream. It's not real, it's just appearing. What is real though? Now this isn't nihilism. This isn't saying, oh, it's all a dream, nothing is real. No, if you are dreaming, that's only because there is a waker who in that moment is dreaming a dream. Without a waking self, would there ever be a dream? Without a dreamer, could there be a dream? Obviously not. A dreamer is required for the random appearance of the dream. In just that same way, God or consciousness is required for the sudden, spontaneous magic of Maya. The appearance of this phenomenal universe. It's nothing actually. Nothing more than a dream that you had last night. It appears, and it appears in the dreamer, God. God is the dreamer. So this isn't Vishnu's play. This is Vishnu's dream. He might not even be aware that he's dreaming it. Ultimately, it's nothing to him on that level, right? Now we get into some pretty uncharted waters as far as most spiritual traditions go. Advaita is bold enough to take us there, though. We're going to go and ask, okay, this is a dream in God, but who is God? And the final analysis reveals to us that God is none other than who we are, not who we think we are, but who we really are. So ultimately then the quest for God and the quest for the self ends up in the same place. But here's what I wanted to stress today. Once that place is discovered, the Atman, the self, and Brahman, the eternal cause of the universe, once Atman and Brahman are discovered to be nothing but an appearance in some reality, Satchid Ananda, then we have achieved this fifth level, Chid Vivarta. Only then. Only when we realize that who I am and who God is one and the same reality, in the same way that a clay, like my guru said yesterday, ant and a clay elephant, although appearing to be different, share ultimately the same fundamental clay, the same fundamental reality. Only when I know that does it make sense for me to speak of Chit Vivarta. Short of knowing that, Chit Vivarta doesn't really make sense. It's like, oh, this is an appearance. Well, it feels real to me though, right? It feels real to me. It only feels unreal when I wake up. And waking up in our tradition is called samadhi. That's why last week we spent a lot of time talking about the importance of samadhi. Because it's only in samadhi like that I truly feel this to be a dream. Because only in samadhi I can compare this seemingly real world to something that's even more real. Imagine if you never woke up from a dream. The dream would not feel like a dream if it's all that you had. But because you wake up from it in the morning, thereby you call it a dream. It's only with reference to the quote unquote more real waking life that the dream becomes less real dreaming life. So you need to compare reality to reality, lower reality to higher reality. It's only in samadhi, arguably, that you have direct experiential access to this higher reality, and thereby you can, with conviction and authority, dismiss this seemingly real world as nothing but an appearance in you. You ultimately being nothing other than consciousness, nothing other than God. That's the importance of samadhi. But we don't need samadhi, arguably. Advaita Vedanta is bold enough to say that even without samadhi, even without turning off the movie, you can still recognize the movie screen. During the movie itself, with some grace and with some intuition, with some insight, you can see that even during the movie, there is indeed a movie screen. And that's what you are. That taintless, unchangeable reality called spirit, called self, called Satchidananda. That's what you are. One only exists. It appears as nature, it appears as soul. Brahman and Atman, in final analysis, are just appearances in you, Satchit Ananda. How do we establish that? So in just the brief remaining time that we have, let's establish it like in brief. So it's a sketch. We'll offer a sketch. And next week, we'll do Gaudapada proper. Now, some of you came for that lecture called Are You Dreaming Right Now? So a lot of Gaudapada's pedagogy is that. Is this really anything more than a dream? And in that lecture, we kind of identified all the ways waking and dream are different. And then we tried to blur the lines, right? We tried to show that actually waking and dreaming aren't that different, ultimately speaking. So next week's lecture will kind of seem like the Are You Dreaming lecture, except it'll be a little closer to scripture, a little closer to Gaudapada. Because he wants to go way beyond appearance. He wants to go to the level of Chin Matram. Only consciousness exists. So after Chid Vivarta, we get something called Chinmayam, which we've been talking about over the last two lectures in a few different ways. One thing I didn't offer in the last two lectures, which I should have offered, is the Dakshina Murti Stotram and its illustration of the mirror. So that's a good thing to understand Chinmayam. Say you have a mirror, and it's a magic mirror. Upon the mirror is reflected a city. It's a magic mirror, and there's a city reflected in the mirror. So there's no actual city. It's a magic mirror. It's just producing a city. That's why the movie example, if Shankara knew it, he would probably have used that. In his time, the mirror was the best that he had. So just picture this, a mirror. In Dakshina Murti Stotram, we get this analogy. On the mirror appears a city. Now, the city appears to be many different things. There are buildings, skyscrapers, some of them, short buildings, some of them. There are dogs, people walking dogs in the street. There are trees, all these different people, different houses, different quarters of the city separated by socioeconomic strata. It's a manifold appearance. There's so many different things, right? However, if you point to any one thing in the mirror, you're pointing to nothing but glass. Even though it appears to be a skyscraper here and a dog there, a person here and a bird there, ultimately, wherever you point on that mirror, you're pointing to glass and glass alone. The reflection gives you an appearance of manifoldness, but in truth, it's nothing but a mirror. Everywhere you point, it's glass. So this is what I think we mean by Chinmayam, the all-pervasiveness of consciousness. We don't mean that consciousness pervades the room like incense or fragrance pervades the room. We don't mean that consciousness like is a substance that like physically exists in things. No. What we're saying is that only consciousness exists, and everything that you see is an appearance in consciousness. So ultimately, it's nothing but a reflection of a mirror, of a city in a mirror. This world that you see around you is just a reflection in you. That's why when you change, the world changes. This is the thing that people who are into manifestation don't quite understand. It's pretty easy to quote unquote manifest because there's no world apart from you. So it's no big thing to change your mind and see a change in the world. Big whoop, the world is nothing. There's no world up there. It's just a dream. So if you change, the world will change. Of course, there's nothing there other than you. There's nothing there other than consciousness. So naturally, if you recognize yourself to be the movie screen, the plot will change. There's no movie apart from you, independently real. You're not in the world. The world is at best a reflection held within you, the consciousness. That's the idea. So the city reflected in a mirror gives us this idea of Chin Mayam, the all-pervasiveness of consciousness. And now we can try it. It's very wonderful. You can look around the room and you can try it. You can look at something and you can ask, what am I looking at? Let's take, for example, the Ayurvedic copper water bottle. We're going to treat it in a slightly different way than we typically do. Look at it and say, what am I looking at? And you might say, I'm looking at an Ayurvedic copper water bottle. Yes, true, but where is the Ayurvedic copper water bottle? This is the key. This is the main question. I'm seeing an Ayurvedic copper water bottle, but where is it? Where is the Ayurvedic copper water bottle exactly? And you might say, most of us are conditioned to say, it's out there, right? It's in the world. And I am seeing some object in the world, which is appearing to me from outside in. That's most of us, we have that feeling, like an intuition that like this world exists, it's out there, it's objective and independently real, and I'm receiving data from it. So the more sophisticated way of saying this is that I'm not seeing a bottle, I'm seeing light. So some mass of light enters my eyes, and through some chemical reaction, it turns into an image in the mind, and my intellect assigns to that image the name Ayurvedic copper water bottle. So this is perhaps representation reality, right? Representative reality, where I'm seeing something. It might not actually be what's there. I might not actually be holding what I think I'm seeing. It at best is a mass of light. However, my mind pictures this mass of light as an Ayurvedic copper water bottle. So even then you could say the bottle is not out here in my hand. It's in here in the mind, the receptacle of all my sense organs. So the image, Ayurvedic copper water bottle, exists nowhere but my mind alone. And to even say light exists independently out there, who can verify this? Who can verify the independent existence of even light out there apart from the one who is attempting to verify it? This is where it gets particularly interesting. Insofar as I cannot demonstrate the objective and independent existence of a world apart from me, the perceiver, then no such world can be meaningfully said to exist. For if I posit the existence of such a world, I'm merely positing something on fancy, on mere belief. It's not philosophically viable for me to assert the existence of something that cannot even in principle be verified. Note that. To assert that a world exists out there apart from perception is philosophically untenable because it cannot be verified even in principle. No one anywhere will be able to verify the existence of a world that exists outside of perception. Some perception is a prerequisite for that which is perceived. And so that which is perceived can ultimately be reduced to the perception itself. So this is so important. There is no Ayurvedic water bottle apart from my seeing one. See, that's the point. There is no Ayurvedic copper water bottle apart from my seeing one. I cannot prove such a thing. Yes, there is no spoon. It's the deepest idea. If there was an Ayurvedic copper water bottle, it means nothing to me. That I am seeing it means something to me, but it does not have a reality apart from my seeing. So the bottle is reduced to my seeing of it. My seeing alone is what I'm experiencing. So note, and this is perhaps the most subtle thing we could say today, is there not a difference between experiencing a table and experiencing the phenomenon called seeing a table? Isn't there a difference? Seeing a table is a certain experience, and that experience is different from experiencing a table directly. Fair? This is very important to grok. If I look at a table, I'm not experiencing a table. I'm experiencing my own perception of a table. I'm experiencing seeing a table. That means that everything I've ever experienced can be reduced to my perception. And perception can be reduced to the mind in which it is occurring. And this is even spookier, the mind, does it have any existence or reality outside of the consciousness that is aware of it? And obviously we can say, no, what is a mind without consciousness? What is perception without a mind? And what is a world without perception? So if we follow this logic, we end up in a very interesting place. Looking around and realizing I'm looking at thoughts. We look around the room, we say, I'm looking at nothing but thoughts. This room is not external to me. It's an experience that is very, very much internal to me. There is nothing out there. It's in here. It's all being experienced in here. In fact, one very naive way to say this is if you look around the room, you'll see that most of the objects in your room started off as an idea in someone's head. right? Like barring plants and natural objects, like your bookshelf started off as an idea. Those books were ideas. The murtis are ideas in painters and sculptors' minds. All your furniture started in the idea of some Swedish genius who started IKEA. Like everything you see around you started as an idea, and what you are seeing now is nothing but an idea made manifest, an idea made gross, the subtle becoming more gross. But even at its grossest, even a rock, the most physical thing you can imagine, even that is not anything apart from your seeing of it. Apart from your perception of the rock, there is no rock. And apart from the mind, there could be no perception. And apart from consciousness, there could be no mind. So we end up with this very startling and exciting conclusion that everywhere I look, I see only consciousness. I'm seeing only an appearance in consciousness. Everywhere I look. That's Chinmayam. The feeling of everything around me is in me. And so everything I touch is me. It has to be, because what reality does it have apart from me? So hopefully on level 6, when we're at level 6, we've attained something that we call interiorization. We can say it doesn't have to be my perception, but Gaudapada is actually so eerie that he might even be, in some places, kind of talking about, dare I say it, what basically, I say this with much reservation, amounts to Eka Jiva Vada. A little bit. Okay, I don't think it's really true that he's an Eka Jiva Vadin. Eka Jiva means the one person. Vada means doctrine. So the doctrine of one person is literally solipsism. And that does exist. That school of Advaita does exist. And it says, no, it's just your perception. How do you know? You have no access whatsoever to anything apart from that. So why would you presuppose that other people exist apart from you? How do you know? You have no access to their first person consciousness. You have access to their bodies, sure. But when you see a car operate automatically, obviously it looks like it's being functioned by consciousness, but it's not. The behavior of consciousness doesn't imply consciousness. This is what neuroscience doesn't yet understand. So just because you see other bodies around you behaving like they have consciousness does not mean they have consciousness. And let's say you were a telepath and you were able to see people's thoughts. Again, that wouldn't prove consciousness. Thoughts aren't consciousness. Consciousness is that which is aware of the thoughts. So really, you have no access to any other consciousness but your own. That's just going to be a fact. You have no access to any other first-person experience outside of your first-person experience. Like in a dream, all these other people around you, yeah, right? Like this idea, you find it in science fiction, but this idea is like, how can you dispute it? It's indisputable. We call this the biggest controversy in philosophy. Subjective idealism has not actually been disproved. We just kind of shoved it under the carpet. So Sarah, I could even go so far as to say, yeah, why not? Why not only my perception? You see how this is thrilling and at the same time eerie? This is truly Eka Jiva Bada, but Gaudapada doesn't want to say that. He's not a solipsist, He's a little deeper. Yeah, exactly, you're right, Pooja. And I think in just about 3 minutes, maybe even less, we're going to go into our Q&A. So let's maybe start with that question that Pooja is asking. But I just want to close with this idea. Yes, you can go the solipsist route, but it's not sustainable, and that's not actually what Gaudapada is saying. He's using the dream analogy to say that the dream appeared to be like an objective reality while you were in the dream. There appeared to be other people in the dream. Now, you were a particular dreamer, right? Like, let's say you were, Jimmy Page, having this experience of being Jimmy Page in like a dream world of Led Zeppelin. Now, in that dream, it's not that Robert Plant and Bonham and John Paul Jones, it's not like they were all in your head, you, Jimmy Page. No. Even you, Jimmy Page, was not existent. So it's not solipsism, because solipsism affirms the individual is the only existence. Gaudapada denies the individual's existence entirely. So he says, what you are is Brahman, and this world, with all of its seeming manyness, is to you what your dream, with its seeming manyness, is what you were when you woke up. It's a very subtle idea, and we maybe will only really get to it next week. For now, it's enough to say that in order to experientially realize this, at every single moment, you must remember that what you're looking at is an interior experience. Every time you see something, you must immediately interiorize it. So you must say, what I'm seeing is not out there. It's not something other than me. So be careful when you find fault in others, because you're talking about your own mind there. Be careful when you complain about something in the world, because it's not out there. It's in here. It's more you than you could ever have imagined. It's an experience in you that is facilitated by you, that is standing upon you as the ground of its existence. Without you, it would not be there. So think of this, Sarah. If you weren't around to perceive anything, what universe would there be? So in some sense, I am talking to just you, Sarah. just you, the one who is perceiving this. Look around you. How do you know other people are here? And more importantly, this shouldn't alienate others. When you look around, you go, oh my God. You look at Holly. Oh, that's me. You look at Bernal. You look at Rose. You look at Rory. You think these are other people? No, they're you. They're nothing other than you. Do you not see that their body and their personality and their like appearance is an experience in you? Isn't that exciting? What intimacy is there in that? So that's why the idea is like, yeah, maybe we can't even go as far as saying, no, we are talking about you. You, the self, as Emily says, is seeing the tree, the body standing in front of me. More like the two sets of eyes are an experience in your mind. The tree, which is coming through the eyes and being presented in the mind, all of that is like a dream. It's happening internal to you, Brahman, the waking reality, arguably. Okay, so in closing, I want to leave you maybe with this, and it's a very helpful tool. And the tool is, it's like a meditation device, and we can use it when we study non-duality. Because you have to ask, what is consciousness? Most of the risk here, and I can already start answering Pooja, most of the risk comes in conflating consciousness with either ego or any other part of the mind. Because what we're talking about is consciousness, but often people say, oh, I'm thinking, that's consciousness. Thoughts are consciousness. Emotions are consciousness. Ego is consciousness. No. Consciousness is that which is aware of all of that. So a very good tool that we can use, and we'll close with this, is if I am aware of something, it's not me. I am that who is aware of it. But if I am aware of it, then it has no second reality apart from me. It is ultimately an appearance in me, the witness. So I'll put that formula there. If I am aware of something, then it is not me. I am not that which I am aware of. I am the one that is aware. However, if I am aware of anything at all, it has no reality apart from me. Therefore, it is an appearance in me, consciousness, the only reality that is. That's the formula. And just like we described 2 weeks ago, just like the pot has no existence apart from the clay, just like the wave has no existence apart from the ocean, just like the dream has no existence apart from the dreamer, this world that you see, this phenomenal universe, this Jagat, this Maya, has no reality apart from you, the one in which it is appearing. So you have to go from the Sankhyan revelation of the world appearing to me to the Advaitic revelation of the world appearing in me as me. That completes the circle for Chinmaya and Chinmatra. So you can put them together. Chinmayam, Chinmatram is the name of God in Advaita. Satchid Ananda is one way to describe God. But you can say God, the vast Brahman, is actually Chinmayam, Chinmatram. In my poem to the Guru, maybe you saw on Instagram, there's a poem I wrote to the Guru, Ma wrote, and in there I call my Guru Chinmayam, Chinmatram. This is a reference to that. Chinmayam, Chinmatram is a name for that absolute, which is all-pervasive consciousness, which alone exists. So verify this. Are you aware of this cup? Yes. Therefore, it's not you. How can it be you? You're aware of it. It's the object. You are the subject who is aware of it. You're not what you are aware of. You are not this cup because you are aware of the cup. It's something that's appearing to you. But it's appearing in you because where could this cup be experienced if not within your field of experiencing? Have you ever experienced a cup outside of you? That would be ridiculous. So this cup is being experienced in you. So cup appearing to you, go from there to cup appearing in you. Party time. Then you go further. You say, okay, I saw the cup. Everybody here think we're not this cup? Is that fair? Not this cup, right? I'm holding it in front of you. Do you think you're this cup? Okay. Some of you are like on a lot of acid. Maybe you'll be like, yeah, bruh, I am everything. I'm the trees, man. Like, okay, barring that guy, like most of you are going to look at this cup and no one's going to actually think you're this cup. You know why I know that? Because if you tell me you're this cup, after this Zoom meeting, I'm going to come to your house. No, I'm kidding. I'm not going to. But if I came to your house and I talked to you, we'd talk about everything but this cup. Because, actually you don't care about it. You've forgotten about it almost immediately after I put it away. Not some of you. Some of you I've indoctrinated so much with this Ayurvedic copper water bottle nonsense. Poor Anna, she goes to sleep and probably all she hears is Ayurvedic copper water bottle. Having heard so many of these lectures for so many years, so diligently, she's come away not with I am Brahman, but probably Ayurvedic copper water bottle, the mantra. No, so not a good example. But I don't think any of us here really thinks we're the copper water bottle, right? Honestly, like, speculation aside, I don't think any of us really feel like we're the bottom, because if we did, why are you hitting yourself, Nish? Why are you hitting yourself, Nish? No, I don't care if you come and break this bottle. I know it's not me. I might be a little upset, but not that upset, because I like it, but it's not me. Okay, in just the same way, am I not experiencing this body? Like, in just the same way as I experience the cup, which is an experience internal to the field of my experiencing, am I not also experiencing sights and sounds and smells and tastes and textures? Like, aren't all of these also, like the bottle, experiences in me, the experiencer? So I should feel, by this logic, that I am no more the body than I am the cup. How can I be? The cup is an experience, the body is an experience. I am not the experience, I am the experiencer. I am not the one, I am not that which I am aware of, I am the one that is aware. You can immediately apply this. Next time you stub your toe, before we go, you might still do that, but you might, in that moment of pain, pause and say, am I aware of the pain? If so, there is some distance between me and the pain. Watch, the pain will go down. That distance is everything. So being able to have this witness vibe is very powerful, very important in the first stages of our journey. It's a kind of dissociation, arguably. You have to kind of step back a bit and say, I don't think I'm the body any more than I am the cup. Give the body back to nature. Yes, it's true. You're going inward, right? You're kind of moving inward away from the body. If this disturbs you, don't do it. Stay in the body. Go and enjoy all the pleasures of the world. Be a body to your heart's content. But if something in you inspires you to maybe go a little deeper, you might be inspired to see that you are not you're not in fact the body, because you are aware of the body. So just hold on to this principle. If I'm aware of it, it's not me. I'm aware of the body, so I'm not the body. And then you can go further and you could say, well, at least I'm a mind. But no, you are not a mind either. For if I am aware of thoughts, if I am aware of memories, if I am aware of my intellect, the one to whom I'm speaking now, to do Advaita, we use the intellect. And if I am aware of even the egoity around which all these memories, thoughts, emotions, and sensations are gathered, if I'm aware of all of that, then it must not be me. For I am that which is aware, not that which I am aware of. So hold on to this principle and meditate using it. When you sit to meditate, you say, am I aware of the sensations? It can't be me. And then, am I aware of the mind? Well, it can't be me. This is a method of going inside, and it should produce samadhi. Like, if truly done, ultimately we realize, like, I am consciousness, and you sit and abide as consciousness, then naturally we become immersed and absorbed in consciousness. And only then, arguably, can we say consciousness alone exists. But even now, intellectually, I hope we can get a glimpse as to what's being said here. Nothing exists apart from consciousness. So once you have that experience of pure consciousness, the next step then is to realize, well, what's there anyway that's not consciousness? Because everything is internal to me as an appearance. So when I open my eyes, I should realize that I've not lost consciousness. I'm not out of samadhi equals no more samadhi. No, open-eyed samadhi, sahaja samadhi, is the ability to look around and say, even with eyes open, this is consciousness. So notice, chinmayam graduates to chinmatram, but chinmatram culminates in chinmayam. So 6 and 7 kind of go together. I've presented it as if 7 trumps 6, the way that the others have trumped the others, but it's not like that. Better way of looking at it is that 7 trumps 6 in the beginning, but 6 consummates 7 in the end. So the ability to open your eyes, having realized that consciousness alone exists, and the ability to enjoy that with eyes open in the world, is what we call Jivan Mukti, liberation of the individual. Nothing short of that. And so I think we can close there. Next week, we're going to look at 17 arguments, or maybe 18, for why you are not the body. Today, I only presented one, which is you cannot be what you are aware of. You must be the one who is aware. How can the subject and the object be the same? Next week, we'll take Shankara, look at 18 arguments from Shankara, and maybe then we can look at Gaudapada and say, yes, I'm more convinced now that I am consciousness, not this body and mind. And then we can do something really eerie, which is use the dream analogy to show that this world is really nothing other than the dream. That's the Mandukya Upanishad, and it's one of the most power-packed of the Upanishads, and I suppose that's coming up, maybe if not next week, the week after. All right, so let's close here now. Fully convinced that I am consciousness, And let's close maybe with a little brief closing meditation. And we'll simply come and sit, sitting tall. Sitting tall as if to meet the grandeur of grace that is even now present. Let us be fully convinced that even now we can have this shift, this change of paradigm. Start by noticing the way breath is moving in and out of the nose. Just noticing the rise and fall of the chest. Just noticing the soft caress of air as it grazes the tip of the nose. Notice the warm, wet sensation of air blowing out of the nose against the upper lip. And become interested now in all the sensations available to you. Sounds, textures, tastes, smells. Although it feels like the sound is coming from your computer, or the smell is coming from the incense, or the texture is coming from the air around you, although it feels that way, notice that you are experiencing all of these sensations inside, internally. Even so-called outside sounds are being heard by you, in you, as a part of your first-person experience. There are no sounds apart from the ones appearing to you now. This is the totality of at least your universe. But it gets deeper. For notice that as you are aware of all these sounds around you, as you are aware of the breath, as you are aware of thoughts and emotions, there seems to be some consciousness, some awareness, some simple aliveness that goes far beyond even your notion of who you think you are. Notice that identity is but a thought, and notice that you are aware of that thought or conglomerate of thoughts or series of thoughts. And now meditate in this way. Note all the things you are aware of, and note that you are none of them. You are the one who is aware. You are awareness at itself. Don't meditate on awareness. It cannot be objectified. It is what you are. It is the one looking. Don't look for it. It cannot see itself any more than an eye can see itself, any more than a knife can cut itself. So don't look for Brahman, don't meditate on Brahman. Just notice what Brahman is not. At first, notice you're not the sounds, you're not the textures, you're not the smells or tastes. Notice you are not the breath, you are not the thoughts, you are not the emotion, you are not even who you think you are. Rest in what you are. Rest in your simple aliveness. Now, carefully note that the experiences around you are incredibly dynamic. Sounds are changing, smells are changing, your mood might be changing, thoughts might be becoming busier or quieter or moving. Everything is so dynamic. Feel the pulsing of the body, the ebb and flow of experience. They are all like waves. Watch them rise, stay around for a while, and disappear. What you are aware of is constantly changing. However, that you are aware is not. The one who is aware of a sleepy mind and the one who is aware of an alert mind is the same one. It is the mind alone that's changed, not you, the witness of the mind. So now, as the experiences, sensation, emotion, thought, etc., as they arise and fall away, imagine an ocean. Imagine these experiences were like waves rising and falling. Feel yourself being immersed into this ocean of Satchit Ananda, pure existence, pure consciousness, and as you yourself can get a glimpse of now, pure bliss, the fearless bliss of being the eternal, unchanging one. All of these experiences, these universes, rise and fall in you. They have their appearance only in you. You are the be-all, end-all. You are the Alpha and the Omega, and even beyond. You are the ground of all existence, pure consciousness. Be that, for you always were, you always will be, and even now are you that. And I will simply chant something, and when I finish, you can start to open your eyes after Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. And when you open your eyes, not quite yet, but when you open your eyes, see, actually see, that nothing exists that does not exist within you as an experience, vibrating or rising and falling away in you. Maybe additionally you can contemplate that which seemed so serious to you a year ago, heck, a day ago. Where is it now? How quickly things are coming and going. How little of it stays. Your money does not stay. Your health does not stay. Even peace of mind comes and goes. All of it is changing, yet are you not the same one in whom those changes have come and gone? Are you not the one beyond all the changes? Whence didst thou then fear? Be that, and sing gloriously the heart's song, the song of freedom. Manno buddhyankar chittani naham nacha shrotra jive nacha grana netre nacha vyoma bhumi na tejo na vayush chidananda rupaha shivoham shivoham chidananda rupaha shivoham shivoham nacha prana sangnyo navai panchavayo navasapta dhatu nava panchakoshaha navakpanipado nachopastapayu chidananda rupaha shivoham shivoham chidananda rupaha shivoham shivoham. I am not the mind. I am not the intellect. I am not the ego, nor am I the storehouse of memories. I am not the body or the changes of the body. I am not the five senses. I am not the five elements. I am consciousness absolute. I am bliss absolute. I am Shiva. I am Shiva. I am not the prana or vital life force. I am not the five winds. I am not the 7 parts of the body, and I am not the 5 sheaths of yoga. I am not the organs of action, speaking, drinking, walking, and so on. I am none of these. I am consciousness absolute, bliss absolute. I am Shiva. I am Shiva. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Tat Sat Shri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu. Om, we pray to the Lord, may we realize this truth even now. May we live according to it, and may our lives be thus blessed. Om, peace, peace.